What's up, guys? We are down here in New Orleans today, all the way in the dirty, dirty South. We pulling up on Coach Smokey with elite O-lineman performance. Very well-known stable of athletes in the area, guys. Let's go inside for this exclusive sit-down with Coach Smokey.
Just like his pops did before the world closed. 57 in the paint shop, getting straightened out. I'm sliding in the Caprice right now. 84 with the rag top, sitting on the porch at Grand's house, watching parades roll by. Whole time nobody knowing. In about a month, this whole way of life will be over. Time frozen, no more high-fiving your homies with your palms.
Welcome to the Modern Sports Show, home of your college athlete, where we are player-led and player-focused. Guys, today we are back in New Orleans, and I say we're back because originally we shot this interview 2 weekends ago.
2 weekends ago.
And man, it was a great interview. We still gonna give y'all a great interview today, but that was a great interview. Just had some technical difficulties, but it's always a treat. It's always a pleasure when I come down here. So I do this anytime. Now. Today, for starters, right, I definitely had to come up with a new spin, kind of give a different angle, like I said, to keep you on your toes, just because I still want the energy to mimic what we created last time. Now, so with that being said, our icebreaker question for today, right, I'm going to have you kind of go back to your playing days, okay?
All right.
Who was the toughest dude you faced competitively at the collegiate level? At the college level, not the high school.
Okay.
At the college level, playing center, who was the dude? Like, man, that's a tough matchup.
I gotta give it to Gabe, man. Gabe, and he was the cat that wasn't like undersized, wasn't gonna wow you with his size.
Yeah.
But he was just strong and he was quick. And he played nose guard, and it was even tougher that he had that strength and had that speed and had that get off. And you would look at him and you wouldn't even expect it, but Gabe was definitely one of my toughest matchups.
And this is Gabe who?
Gabe Eccles.
Gabe Eccles.
Yeah, Gabe Eccles.
So was he better at a zero? Was he better at a shade? Like
he could play both, to be honest, man.
Yeah.
He was one of them dudes he was athletic enough to do both. And he played with leverage. Like I said, he was a strong cat. You would look at him and you wouldn't believe it, but he was a baller, man.
Yeah.
So Gabe Eccles was definitely one of them guys.
Now I want to before we kind of discuss your journey and just kind of how you got to where you are today, I do want to emphasize, guys, the importance of having you on the show, because like I mentioned in the last time we sat down and talked, you're not just a random somebody. You get what I mean?
Definitely.
The role that you play in college football and breeding college athletes is very pivotal for the sport at large itself, but also for the individual athletes, the lives that you touch with them. And so, guys, I don't want you to think this is just a random cat, a random trainer I just pulled off the street. This is actually the trainer of Landry Cannon, offensive lineman at Tulane, as well as Malachi Preciado, offensive lineman at South Alabama, who they have graced the show. So be sure to go check out those episodes as well. And again, the reason that it's important to have you on the show, because this whole thing connects, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are some names that you've mentioned, names that I've mentioned, dudes like, okay, I know that cat, I know him, he went here, he trained there. And so that's the relevance, that's the importance of having you on the show.
Definitely.
Now, with that being said, I want to go back to Port Sulphur again, right? And that's talking about that and the role that your upbringing, your father placing you in the sport, that played on your journey.
Definitely. So growing up in Port Sulphur, it was a town where, like I said, you got Mississippi River on one side and you got swamps on the other side. So there's really not much to do, So it was either you like being in the bayou, you like shrimping and you like fishing and hunting and all that stuff, or you like sports.
Yeah.
And Port Sulphur in particular, they played baseball, they played basketball, but football was the main sport.
Right.
You would see a million kids, for a time when it was time to sign up for football. Yeah. And growing up in the environment I did, my dad never signed me up for any other sport. But when it was time to sign up for football, he was there.
Right on.
So I never played basketball, never played baseball growing up. It was just strictly football. And growing up, seeing that Port Sulphur Bell Chase rivalry, that even made you want to play football even more.
Now I want to ask you a question a little bit to kind of dive deeper into that, what type of relationship, what type of role did your father play in your football journey?
Oh, big. You know, he was my biggest critic.
Yeah.
Even on the games where we blew kids out and we blew teams out and we won by 40, you know, I got in the car and it was just like, oh, you did this wrong, you did that wrong.
Yeah.
And so he was definitely my biggest critic. You know, he pushed me, he pushed me to who I was in the game. And, you know, he always reminded me that you could never stop working.
Yeah.
And my dad was a hard worker. You know, I seen my dad work all the way up until like about 60,
yeah.
you know, working in the plant.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he always preached that on me. So he really pushed me to work and keep working. And, you know, he actually bought me a weight set. He was like, nah, you don't need a trainer. And that's how it was back in the day. You don't need a trainer.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he bought me a weight set and was like, go work out outside.
Yeah.
So he was definitely that dad that pushed me.
So would you say, I guess, your dad, did he always breed you to be an offensive lineman, or kind of what was that like at first?
Well, it wasn't until I got to like 8th grade. That's when he kind of knew I was going to be a lineman.
Okay.
You know, like when I was small, I played everything.
Yeah.
Played fullback, you know, lineman, all that. But when I got to high school, it was like, okay, you're going to be a lineman. It was no doubt that I was going to be a lineman once I got to that age.
Okay, so now you mentioned the Bell Chase and Port Sulphur rivalry and kind of the importance. We kind of touched on that last time.
Yeah.
But I do want to reintroduce that topic because you grew up in Port Sulphur, but I went to Bell Chase. Okay,
yeah.
So what type of? I think for us, the viewer at large, not being from the area, obviously you don't know how big and how deep the rivalry is. But for someone that grew up here and played there, how conflicting was that for you and your community?
So it's a small town, like you said, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's related. So I played at Bell Chase, but all my cousins played at Port Sulphur. Well, it's South Plaque now.
Yeah.
Once Katrina hit, but you know, it was like everybody knew everybody, and so you know, on Friday nights, you know, everybody knows you. Yeah. So you're warming up, everybody's yelling your name, you know, and so it's just like everybody knows everybody. So it makes it a little bit more conflicting. But on Friday nights when you go against your people that you grew up with, it makes it fun. It makes it fun.
Definitely. And so I also want to, because you won a state championship, right? That's something we did our homework on in the past interview. But you won a state championship, and you spoke about building that up, right? Kind of how you came in as a freshman, how the program kind of disciplined you into becoming what you would be when you won the state championship your junior season.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, I guess that year that you won the state championship, the memorable moments, right? But I'm add another element. What role did you play on that team as a leader, if any, at the time?
Okay. So, all right, like you said, you know, my freshman year coming, program completely changed. Yeah. Kudos to Coach Harrison. He's the OC at Destrehan now.
Yeah.
But you know, he came in and he really changed the way we worked out, you know, changed the way we did speed work. And so completely, we went from, you know, getting our behinds kicked in district, you know, my freshman, sophomore year. And then my junior year, it's like, okay, we making some noise. Yeah. So, you know, my junior year, one of the most memorable moments, and I didn't say this in the first one, we actually lost to the team that we beat in the state championship. Yeah. We actually lost to them in the regular season. Okay. And they won district. They were in our district. Okay. So, you know, that was one of the games that we lost. And the crazy thing is we had 5 turnovers and we lost by 1 point, 28-27 off a botch extra point. Yeah. You know, but you know, I think Bastrop was definitely one of the most game that you know, that was the most exciting. That should have been our state championship game. Yeah. Beating Ruben Randall, they had a D-line, all of them went D1. Josh Downs played at LSU. I think DeQuinta Jones went to Arkansas or something like that. Yeah. So, you know, that was a tough opponent, and beating them and beating the #1 player in the country, you know, that felt good. Yeah. You know, but that year we had leaders, we had 22 seniors that year. Okay. So, you know, I didn't have to be vocal or anything like that.
Yeah.
Blake Mathern was our leader.
Yeah.
He was the quarterback. He was Mr. Louisiana,
Right.
you know, and he was the reason why we went to state.
Yeah.
Like he led us to state, and there was a lot of games where he was like, "Hey, look, get on my back, and I'll take us there," and he did, bro. And like one of the greatest players I've ever played with.
Right.
And, you know, and especially being at O-line and, you know, being his center,
Yeah.
like he was a workaholic, and it showed. He went from his junior year to getting knocked out the second round, and then his senior year just goes on a whole different level, like just turns it up.
So let me ask you this then as well. So kind of transition into your senior year, right?
Mm-hmm.
With you having all those seniors your junior year.
Yeah.
What did you learn, I guess, that kind of helped you be a senior? And then what did that senior season look like for you all? Were you able to kind of reach the same, obviously maybe not win the state championship, but did you reach, like what did that senior year look like?
Man, it was rough my senior year, dude.
Yeah.
We had 3 starters coming back on offense, and 2 starters coming back on defense.
Yeah.
So total 5 starters coming back.
Right.
So it was really rough. And, you know, the seniors teach you how to lead by example. So you kind of figure out, you know, by watching the seniors how to lead.
Yeah.
But they don't teach you how hard it is to lead a group of young guys.
Yeah.
And they don't teach you how hard it is to show them and teach them how to work and how to endure the process of being a winner. Because like you said, I won a state championship, so we understood the process of winning. You know, we understood how to watch film. We understood how to keep the intensity at practice. We understood just not coming to practice was going to be good enough. Mm-hmm. We had to come to practice, and it had to be a perfect practice.
Yeah.
And that's the only way we knew, you know, that's the only way we knew how we was going to get there.
Yeah.
And so being the older guy and trying to lead that with a group of young guys, sophomore, freshmen, it's rough because they're still, you know, they don't get it just yet.
Yeah.
They're still immature. They still want to go hang with their girlfriends at, you know, and after practice instead of hurry up and getting your ass to practice, you know, after school. And so seniors don't teach you that.
Right.
You know, they don't teach you how hard it is to lead a group of young guys in order to succeed on the field.
And so, what did recruiting look like your senior year? I mean, who were you talking to, and who showed interest?
So, all right, after the state championship game, I got my first recruiting letter from Kansas State.
Okay.
Handwritten letter, and it was legit, you know, because you know how back in the day, they used to give you junk mail, and you knew it was junk mail because it wasn't handwritten. Mm-hmm. If you got handwritten stuff back in the day, you knew it was something serious. Right. So my first letter ever was from Kansas State, and that came like 2 weeks after the state championship game. Wow. And it showed it showed a testimony because my coach always said, college coaches love winners. Yeah. If you focus on winning in high school, they're going to find you, and they're going to come show interest because winners know how to handle the process. Yeah. You know, so after that, then I got Grambling. They were recruiting me really heavy. Northern Illinois, they came down and watched in spring, but I was 5'11", dude, and the coach that came down, big tall coach, I look up at him, shook his hand, he looked down, I was like, yeah, he's not gonna come back and recruit me. Yeah. So for me, it was a little rough, man. I'm not gonna lie, I was only 5'11", barely pushing 6 foot. Yeah. You know, I was number 2 center in the state behind Alex Hill. Okay. He was a 3-star, I was a 2-star. But you know, recruiting, it was rough. You know, because if you don't fit the mold in the trenches, you know, you don't really get the benefit of the doubt.
What would you say was, even with your stature, right, being 5'11", barely 6 foot, how much were you weighing at the time?
280.
280. Yeah. So what would you say were like your strengths? Like what were things you knew I do this exceptionally well?
I was quick.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I was a pretty good athlete. Right. You know, I ran a 4.99 out of high school. Okay. So I could move pretty well. Yeah. And so I was never really a strong guy, to be honest. Yeah. In high school, I bench pressed 315. I squatted 430. But I hang clean. We did rep max for hang cleans, and I hang clean 315. So I was never really like a really overly strong guy.
Right.
And I knew that.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it was a struggle hanging with some guys that were strong.
Yeah.
But I knew my quickness was going to beat a lot of people.
Right.
And, you know, in the trenches, you figure out ways like if you know you're not strong in high school, there's a way you could get around with position blocking a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, now is that good for college recruiting? No, because they want to see you move people off the ball.
Right.
But, you know, I figured out, you know, all right, I don't have to be strong. I just got to get in people's way.
Yeah.
And so I use my quickness and my athleticism a lot.
So I imagine gap schemes was more your bread and butter.
Well, as a center, I never pulled in high school.
Okay.
So really and truthfully, we ran a lot of zone scheme.
Okay.
Outside zone, inside zone.
Yeah.
And so I was really good at that because I could get to the second level pretty quick.
Got you.
You know, I actually had teams that I never had this happen before until my senior year. I actually had teams scheme against me.
Yeah.
They would have the nose guard just drag me down so I wouldn't combo to get to the next level. And I figured out after a few plays, I'm like, hold on, I think I'm pancaking him. And then I'm like, nah, he's dragging my ass down.
Palms open, you gotta watch who you go home with. Watch who you smoke with. My son is full grown. Man, he rolled all golden crown in the Chevy of his own.
Ultimately, out of high school, you would end up going to Blinn College.
Yep.
And that was something that we kind of touched on, but I do want to, just for the purposes of interview, I want to kind of take a step back and examine what that time was like at Blinn. And so, like we kind of touched on, Cam, right? Mm-hmm. He had just came and left prior to you getting there.
Yeah.
And they won a championship when he was there.
Yep.
And so, was there still any residue of that?
Oh yeah, that was their selling point.
Yeah.
You know, national JUCO champions, Cam Newton, #1 JUCO player in the country.
Yeah.
Goes to Auburn.
Yeah.
You know, so that was their big selling point.
Right.
But at the time too, though, they had a lot of guys go D1.
Yeah, okay.
And what's crazy is we didn't dive into this. I'll tell you the whole story of how I got to Blinn. Because after signing day, I had nothing.
Wow.
Like literally
Late
nothing.
signing or early signing?
Late. There was no early signing when I played.
Okay.
So there was only February signing.
Gotcha.
Right. And so after February, I had nothing.
Right.
And so there was a I forgot his name, but there was a coach. I think he was one of the special teams coach, and he's from Louisiana.
Okay.
So he's in Baton Rouge looking for a center.
Okay.
And a coach in Baton Rouge is like, I don't have no centers out here.
Yeah.
He was like, check out the kid from Bell Chase.
Okay.
And so literally I just left school. He shows up on campus. My coach called me. He was like, Sylv, there's a coach, you know, from Blinn want to talk to you.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, coach, I just left. He was like, well, look, I'm gonna give you his number. So what's crazy is I just had a shoulder injury. I popped my shoulder out of place. They wanted me to go to a camp, but I really couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So I go to the camp anyways, perform. I skip out on the bench press, and they kind of questioned me why.
Yeah.
So I kind of avoid the questions, you know.
Yeah.
And I do one-on-ones, man. I just remember doing one-on-ones, and I can't use my left arm.
Okay.
I'm literally blocking guys with literally just one arm.
Yeah.
And I remember this like it was yesterday because I always say God puts you in places and get you to know people, and because it's his plan, right? So I meet a guy after the camp, Raymond Chin Young.
Okay.
He's the center at Southern.
Okay.
Right? So he talks to me after the camp, and now he's the assistant O-line coach with the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
And so, long story short, right, I go from Blinn to Southern.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he still has ties there.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
but going on to the Blinn story, man, go to Blinn, I go to there, man, and it wasn't home. I got homesick, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I got homesick, and on the weekends, everybody's gone. It's Texas. Everybody's from Texas.
Yeah.
There was only 2 people from Louisiana on the roster.
Right.
So on the weekends, everybody leaves, and we're literally stuck on campus like 5 people.
Yeah.
So I get homesick, man, and I wind up leaving.
Yeah.
You know, I wound up leaving it. And JUCO, it's a grimy world, especially back in the day.
Yeah.
Because everybody's about themselves.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's trying to JUCO's the next step to get to where they're going.
Right.
Because a lot of cats in JUCO, back in the day, they didn't have the grades, or they needed more development. So that was the whole reason of JUCO back in the day. And so cats was really about themselves, you know.
how would you say that? I mean, just that season, that long season that you were at Blinn. How would you say, like, all in all, how would you sum that up?
So I actually left before the
Prior to
season
the
started.
season. Okay.
And so it was rough because I sat out. It was the first time ever I sat out and didn't have football.
Okay. So what did that look? Let's talk about it. What did that look like? Being there for the summer, I assume.
Yep.
And then, okay, like, you know, getting the homesick, and I understand that because I've been in that position too, and that's something that I don't think a lot of athletes, a lot of college athletes don't really take into consideration when they're going to college.
It's real, man.
That's a real thing. No matter what level of ball you play, you could be from New Orleans, you could be from Orlando, whatever. You're like, okay, I'm this big D1 dude, I'm going to Oregon. Well, it feels pretty on the visit. Everyday life, when that coach is not trying to cater to your every...
And see, back in the day, you got to realize, I played in a time where there was no FaceTime.
Yeah.
There was no Instagram.
Yeah.
There was none of that to keep in contact with your family.
Yeah.
Like, now you go to Oregon, you can see your mom every day on FaceTime, and you're pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah, you're not going to have cooking and all that, but you can see whoever you want.
Yeah.
Back in the day, there was none of that.
Right.
It was just a phone call.
Yeah.
So it was even a little bit more, going through that process because you don't really have nobody. Yeah. I'm literally stuck in a dorm. My roommate was from Beaumont.
Yeah.
I think his name was Tevin, played cornerback, right? He was from Beaumont. Every weekend he goes home. Man, I'm just stuck in a dorm chilling by myself. Yeah. I don't have FaceTime. It was a little bit more rough back in the day.
And I guess to kind of like finish that question though, what did that fall look like? You back in the city, like what are you doing? And
so I came home. I was still working out, but it was a time of like kind of like lost. Like, what do I do next? Yeah. And what's crazy is my dad really helped me out because he gave me the ultimatum, right? Yeah. He was the person that told me, you're not getting a job. He was one of them. Yeah. You're not getting the job. You're going to work out because you're going back to school in the fall. I mean, in the spring. Yeah. And he was like, and you're going to Louisiana College. Yeah. He was like, so I don't want you to get a job. I want you to keep working out. So, but it was still like I said, it's the first time I've never played a season, since like 7. Yeah. Because I started ball when I was 7 years old, like in pads. Yeah. And from there, I've always played football, every football season. So it was the first season I've missed, since 7 years old. And so it was rough, but, my dad kind of kept me focused on that.
I think, and to be honest, my brain right now, I'm thinking of like, okay, even with right now where we are with like NIL and then transfer portal and stuff like that, that's a real thing now. Like where, okay, I want to hit this winter portal, and then this coach, they're interested in me, but it's like, I don't want to commit right now. I'm going to go home for the spring, and I'm going to chill out at the house. I'm going to work out, until I'm ready to get somewhere in the summer. Yeah. So it's kind of funny. Yeah. It's kind of like a space that you were in.
Exactly. And it's more common now.
So what?
I wouldn't say more common, but, it's a real thing now.
For sure. And so you go to Louisiana College, am I right? In between Southern. Yep. Okay. And is that a JUCO here?
No, at the time it was actually a D3.
Okay.
It was a D3, now the NAIA. Okay. Which is good because when I went, you had to pay for school. Right. And it was no Pell Grant. Right. They wasn't getting federal funding. So now that they're NAIA, they could get federal funding, and it's really good. Now they can give out scholarships.
Now at Louisiana College, you spent the season there?
I spent 2 years there.
Spent 2 seasons.
2 seasons there.
So how would you just kind of let's visit that? How was your time at Louisiana College? What are some things you learned? Who are some people you met?
So I was there with 2 of my high school teammates, Justin Usay and Jeremy Udovich, right? Jeremy Udovich was, one of the motivating guys there because, dude, he was in high school, he was 6'5", 220. And when I finally got up there that spring of 2011, he was 6'5", 300 pounds. And I'm just like, how did you do that in a year? Yeah. Yeah. But Jeremy Udovich wound up going from Louisiana College and spending 7 years in the league. Yeah. Yeah, from D3.
That's great.
But he was 6'5", 300 and ran a 4.7 40. Yeah. Yeah. So he was moving, big athletic kid, right? But I kind of fell into politics there, and I hate that I say that, but the starting center was he was a senior, started all 4 years. Little brother was behind him. Yeah, I was in one of those situations, right?
Yeah.
Now, Hunter was good, but I knew I was better, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, I was stuck at D tackle, which I liked, but I always knew I was like, once they switched me to center in high school, I fell in love with it.
Right.
And I wanted to be a center.
Okay.
So I was stuck at D tackle, and the only reason why I played D tackle because my D line coach, Coach Buck, he's the head coach at Hendricks now.
Okay.
But they call him Coach Buck, but it's Buck Buchanan, right? And so he was the real reason why, you know, I enjoyed playing D line.
Yeah.
But once he left, he wound up leaving, taking the head coaching job at Hendricks, and the coach that they brought in, I just, you know, I didn't
see eye to eye.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it just, I don't know, it made me conflict with myself because I was at a time where, all right, me and you don't see eye to eye. You're making me not really like this position, and it's now even making me more wanting to move back to center. And so that was the reason why, you know, I wound up eventually transferring to Southern.
And that is something that we tend to overlook in sports. I wanted to say college athletics.
Yes.
I've had my fair share of coaches who it's like, man, we are not on the same page.
Yes.
And I think now with where we're moving in college athletics and in professional sports, it's been this way.
Oh yeah.
Because you're a professional. Yeah. But in college athletics, I believe now that's why we're starting to see this mass transfer of athletes, just because it's like, I really don't have to deal with this. I don't have to deal with
exactly.
this. And so I love it in a sense, in this idea, in this realm, but then there's also there are things that you should fight through as an athlete.
Exactly.
So, that is something, you know, I obviously hate for an athlete to have to deal with that be the reason that you don't.
And let's just call it a spade, man. Sometimes it is coaching.
Yeah.
Because, hey, and like every profession, there's good coaches, there's bad coaches, just like every other profession.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes, you know, you're in control of a room, right, when you're a coach.
For sure.
And when you're in control of the room, it's up to you to know the weaknesses and the strengths of your room.
Yeah.
And it's up, and you got to look at every individual, and you got to evaluate, okay, what can you help us in what area?
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes coaches get it wrong.
Right.
You know, sometimes coaches don't see a full potential in a kid. And see, nowadays with the transfer portal, what's happening now is you take the development part out of it, because now you want kids right now.
Yeah.
You wouldn't realize how many coaches hit me up. What kids are in the portal? Because why? They're trying to get older because they want guys with experience.
Right.
So it takes the development even more out of it.
Yeah.
Because now, okay, I don't have to take time to develop this kid. I can just go get a guy from the portal, and you know he should already be developed.
Yeah. Nah, and so I guess just quick tidbit question, side note. What do you say to the coaches who choose to remain in the developmental process with wanting to bring in high school kids and actually develop them? Like is that good for the sport? Is it bad? Like what is, you know?
No, I think it's great, man, because kids need it.
Yeah.
Not every kid has access to trainers. And just like college, there's bad coaches in high school too. So not every kid is getting the same coaching, you know, in high school. Not every kid is getting that development. Yeah. So we still need O-line coaches in college to be like, hey, no, I'm going to take high school kids and develop them.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna, and I would say find a balance, right? You know, if it's an immediate need, and high school kids sometimes not ready.
Yeah.
And if it's an immediate need, then go ahead and get a guy from the portal by all means. Right? To make your O-line better.
Yeah.
You know, but we still need O-line coaches to want to develop high school kids, because what's happening is now it's hard to get high school kids in college. And you know, you got some colleges, coach, I'm not taking no high school kids this year.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? It's unheard of.
Yeah.
And so, you know, kids need coaches to, hey, I'm gonna take you so I can develop you.
Right on. So you will ultimately end up transferring, like you mentioned, from Louisiana College to Southern University.
Yeah.
And I want to know, what was that time period like for you? What went into the decision, and what other offers maybe you had on the table at the time before, choosing Southern?
Well, other offers back in the day, there was no transfer portal. Right. So there was no like recruiting like it was now. Yeah. So it was, if you were transferring, you either knew a coach there or you were just gonna walk on.
Okay.
And so for me, it was like, all right, I emailed, it's crazy, I still got that email. I emailed Coach Barry.
Yeah.
And when he got the job, because he just got the job when I transferred to Southern. Okay. I transferred in the spring. Yeah. So he just got the job, so I emailed him to walk on at Southern. Yeah. So we had to go through that process. It wasn't like how it was, now, like it is now. Yeah. So, but going through that little process, man, it was kind of rough because as a walk on, you got to go through admissions yourself. There's nobody to walk you through it. Yeah. And then on top of that, you have to go to what was it? You got to go through. I can't think of the actual name of the department, but to get cleared, you got to go to the you got to go through all that, and so you're basically, how it is with football, everything's expedited. There's no waiting. No. But when you're on the opposite side of a walk-on, you have to wait. Yeah. So I didn't get on the team until that fall, like mid-season.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And my grades were good, paperwork was good, and at the time, Southern Backhouse, it was just bad. Yeah. And that's something you got to deal with in HBCUs. Yeah. Some HBCUs deal with that. Right. And so that little time, it was rough because I'm still working out, staying ready, and I'm like any day now. And so I get on the team finally in the fall. And, I got a red shirt, obviously, because back in the day, if you transferred, you had the red shirt. Yeah. So, I took that whole year to red shirt and, just learn football. And I'm kind of glad I made that decision, man. No lie. Okay. Chennis Berry taught me a lot about football that I thought I knew. Find out I didn't know anything. So, that whole process, it was rough in the beginning trying to get on the team because you're, constantly, it's a waiting game. And you're not in control of it, and you don't have anybody in the door to push to expedite the process. So, that was a little. I wish I could have got on the team during the spring because I probably could have earned my spot. During fall, but I still had to sit out. So. Now,
in your time at Southern, kind of touched on this, but you experienced some injuries. Yeah. And those injuries kind of played a very pivotal role in the rest of your football career. Yeah. And so, with that being said, can you touch on, what that looked like around that time in your life?
So it wasn't until fall. Fall when I got on the team, I started experiencing some pains down my leg, and it was radiating from one leg to the other. And, I went through the off season and went through spring just dealing with it. And that's why I tell kids now, if you feel something, go to trainer, get checked out. Yeah. Don't be, we're warriors, we're gladiators, and we play one of the toughest sports in the world. But at the end of the day, you need your body. Yeah. Right? So I was experiencing that for a whole year and never went to the trainer. I'm a walk-on. So, I can't. I'm trying to earn my scholarship. I'm trying to, earn my spot. So you can't, especially at that time. Right. So I ignored it for a whole year, man. And it wasn't until the last workout of the summer. It was a Friday. Yeah. And after workouts that evening, I couldn't stand up straight. So I wound up going to the hospital, get some x-rays, do MRIs, find out I have 2 herniated discs and 3 bulging discs in my lower lumbar. Yeah. So doctor gives me an ultimatum. He's like, you can either do an epidural shot, try to save your season, or you get surgery when your season's done. Mm-hmm. So of course I do what any other football player is gonna do. Yeah. Give me the shot. Let me keep going. Right. And so I wound up getting the epidural shot right before fall camp and had to wait like a couple days. So I'm waiting, shot never kicks in, I'm still feeling pain, but my 3 days are up and I'm just like, it's time. Yeah. Like I'm missing time. Yeah. So I go back to practice, man, and it it wasn't until we was doing 2-minute drill. And we were doing 2-minute drill, man, and, you know, driving down the field, and at one point, man, I couldn't feel my legs, and I really couldn't run. I felt like I was running, but I was walking. And my guards, Big Pie, and I forgot the other one, and they had to literally carry me downfield so I could snap the ball. And after that practice, I walked up to Coach Barry and was like, Coach, I got to get surgery. Got to. I was like, I can't do nothing like this. I can't perform like this. Especially when you're an athlete and you know what you're capable of. You know, and that's the toughest thing. You know, when you're limited and you know you're capable of doing something.
So I guess when around this time, right, like what is your psyche? And then I know what it's like dealing with injury and kind of just that part of you that's like, man, if I could just have for you, it's probably like another set of legs like what I could do with this opportunity right now. Yeah. And so for you, like kind of what are those recurring thoughts that you're having at the time?
So at that time, man, to be honest, I was kind of defeated. Yeah. No lie. I was, because at that time it was like, okay, you have 2 herniated discs and 3 bulging discs. So it's like everything's messed up down there. Yeah. So it was like, there's no coming back from that, and that was my mindset. So, and I'm thinking worst case scenario, of course, and it's just, it kind of defeated me, man. It was I don't think I'm gonna be able to get through this. Yeah. And it ultimately made me hang up the pads because it was like, do I really play with my lower back like that? Yeah. So it was really a time where I had to like really decide, do I come back from this or do I just hang it up?
Now I hate playing what ifs, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, for just the sake of the moment, and maybe even for the sake of a young kid watching this who might be dealing with something similar or whatever the case, is there something that you would have did differently in that year span where you experienced the first set of pain till when it was kind of like, hey, this is what you have? Like, what would you have done differently in that window of time?
Go see the trainers. Get it diagnosed early. Like I said, you only get one body. So we play a really violent game. So if something's bothering you, go get it checked out. Yeah. And if I could go back and go through that time, man, I would go and get checked out. Right. I don't care if I'm a walk-on or not. Because the best ability is what availability. Yeah. Can't play football if I'm not available. Right on. And so at the end of the day, that was me having that old mindset, right? That old gladiator mindset, like, we're men, we play this game and we don't feel pain. Yeah. And a little bit of pain that we do feel, we gonna push through that. That ain't gonna stop us. Right. But you can't do that. Right. You gotta take care of your body.
Gotta take care. You get one body, guys. Gotta take care of your
yes.
body. Yeah, before the world closed, when my son was full grown, may he roll on golden crown in the Chevy of his own, like his pops did before the world closed.
So with that being said, would you like kind of, okay, gotta hang up the pads, this is the direction that I have to go, like kind of was forced into this position. Yeah. What are the next stages of life looking like for you?
Rough, no lie. Yeah. Like I said, I've been playing football since 7 years old. Yeah. It's the only thing I knew. Yeah. And when you're a football player, you don't really think about what else you're good at. Mm-hmm. You don't think about life after football when you're in it. And that's why I tell kids now, you have other talents. Yeah. Tap into them. Yeah. Find what you like outside of football. Because once football's over with, you're going to have to use your other talents.
For sure.
And so for when football's taken away from me, it's like, what else am I good at? Yeah. What else? I'm good at being a football player, right, but I don't know what else I'm good at. I don't know what other talents I have. Right. And so I go through a phase of, man, being hooked on pain pills, just having a rough, because I don't know, I don't know which way to go. Yeah. You find, you go through that moment of you're kind of lost. Yeah. Until you find out, okay, this is what I'm good at.
2-part question. What role did your dad play around this time in your life? And then second question, what was that thing that you found out you were good at? That wasn't football.
So at this time, my dad's I'm not even really around my dad at this time.
Okay.
You know, so my parents were separated when I was young. So at this time, I'm really living with my mom.
Yeah.
And, you know, she's kind of helping me, you know, find that what's next phase.
Yeah.
And, you know, I went through a lot, man. I went back to the restaurants because that's what I did throughout college.
Okay.
You know, as a bartender, server. So I did that for a little bit.
Yeah.
I wound up working in the jail,
Wow.
you know, working at the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
And I always found myself like unsatisfied though.
Okay.
Like it wasn't enough.
Right.
You know, it just never, and it's funny because to be honest, man, I didn't quit every 9 to 5 I had.
I can't.
I didn't quit every single one of them.
I feel it. Yeah, I say
You know, and so, you know, I went through that time of really just trying to figure out like, what else am I good at?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until 2015, I'm living in Mandeville. And at this time, I had my back surgery in 2014. So it was like a year later. I'm working out. Like I said, I was 300 pounds when I was at Southern. You know, I got up to 300 pounds, and after back surgery, it was like I don't need to keep this no more. You know, I'm like, if I'm gonna keep this weight, then I'm gonna have a couple more back surgeries.
Yeah.
And so I went. You know, I got into the gym, started working out 3 times a day. You know, I used to work out like a football player.
Right.
And at one point in time, I still wanted to play football.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was kind of far-fetched. But I used to work out like a football player.
Right.
And so it wasn't until these 2 kids saw me working out like a football player, and it was like, hey, do you play football? And I was like, yeah, I used to. And I was like, you know, I still work out like this, but, you know, I used to. And they started asking me about my career. And I was like, I played O-line and all that. And they asked me to train them.
Yeah.
And this is how I got started in training. Right? And so I start with them 2, and there were 2 kids that I think they played at Mandeville. No, not Mandeville. Covington. I don't know, one of these schools in North Shore.
Okay.
But I start off with them 2, and, you know, I kind of figure out, like I like this.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of fun. You know, it reminded me of being back in football mode.
Yeah.
You know, because you're working out like a football player, and you know, working with the kids, you get that.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't until then I started liking it, and then I got married, and then I moved to Alexandria not too far after, 2016, and then I became a coach at Alexandria High School.
Right.
And I got into that. I was assistant linebackers coach.
Okay.
And on the side though, I started training.
Yeah.
And so my first person was Deontay Washington.
Okay.
He went to I think a D3 in Ohio. And started working with him, and I was like, man, I like this.
I can do this.
I can do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's a need for it in Central Louisiana.
For sure.
I was like, there's a need for it up here. I'm like, you know, I want to get that started up here. But, you know, not too far after, me and my wife get divorced.
Yeah.
And, you know, I moved back to New Orleans, and I started in 2018. Crazy story. I was working at Carrabba's in Metairie.
Okay.
And one of my regulars, they were talking about football, and I used to tell them, yeah, I play ball. Yeah. And it was like, well, we have a kid that's going to college and on a scholarship, and, you know, he needs a trainer. And I was just like, well, I'll train him for free.
Okay.
And so I started training him at Harrell on the weekends. And that's when I, like, really got started in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And for 2 years, nobody really knew about me. And then once 2020 hit, COVID hit, nobody's working out at high school. Yeah. So that's when I start with Malachi.
Yeah.
And then that's when we get started, and the next thing you know, it just blows up from there.
And that's the perfect segue into what you do now.
Yeah.
Elite O-line training, performance. And so with that being said, like, I mean, obviously you just took us through the front story of kind of how you got into it, but I mean, how would you describe that entity, like what it is today and everything that it stands for? What does elite O-line performance mean to you?
Exactly what it means, man. Elite. And it doesn't just mean elite kids. Mm-hmm. It means being the best lineman that you can possibly be.
Yeah.
Because not every kid has the measurables. Not every kid can bench press the house or squat the world.
Yeah.
Right? But are you maximizing and being the best O-lineman that you can be?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So elite O-line performance is it's just that.
Yeah.
You know, so I want you to I want you to think and have the confidence that you're an elite O-lineman, right? Because I'm gonna train you as such. I demand greatness, right? And there's only one. There's only one standard. There's only one standard, bro.
Yeah.
You know, the standards have been set. I love the saying. You know, what was it? I love the saying. The work is the work. Or however it goes. Nick Saban says it, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, the standard's the standard.
Yeah.
You know, and at the end of the day, we don't train to be mediocre.
Yeah.
We train to be the best.
Yeah.
Whether you believe it or not, I believe it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a work your ass like I believe it. You know.
I like that.
So that's what it is, man. And you know, and I take pride in it because
I can tell.
I love this.
Yeah.
I'm in football mode 24/7, 365.
It's funny because I think what you kind of just described, elite O-line performance stands for, and kind of, I would say that's kind of like the mission statement. What you just prescribed is what it sounds like you were yourself as a player. Like you mentioned earlier in the interview, you weren't the biggest, weren't the strongest, right? But you sound, but with every opportunity you got to maximize the lineman that Smokey could be, you took that opportunity and you tried to push the envelope each time. And so it sounds like that's kind of how you train your athletes, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, man, I'm really tough on them, man. And like I said, it's just because I didn't go to the league.
Yeah.
I didn't play Power 5 ball, you know, but at the end of the day, you're going to have a chance to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I want every kid that comes to me to believe that they could go to college and play ball.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's going to turn into, all right, I had a kid, Justin West. He's 5'8", right? But a badass center in high school. And he trained like he was going to college.
Yeah.
But that turned in from that to him going to have a band scholarship at Kentucky State.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's just the mindset, right? Because this kid, his senior year, his mom died. He has no father.
Yeah.
Right?
Right on.
And at a time where the world was, you know, pushing him and telling him to shut down, he had that elite mindset. Like, I'm not letting this stop me.
I like that.
I'm not letting this stop me.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy? We're in a group message. All my kids are in a group message that I've been having since 2020, right?
Yeah.
Every single one of them is in college.
Right on.
Because why? Every single one of them have an elite mindset to, hey, there's no such thing as failure in this group.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as failure.
I love that.
We're going to all keep each other accountable.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, man. It's about building the community. Because at some point, man, these kids are going to come back.
And you're going to need that community at some point in your life, too, you know. And that is, I mean, those are a couple things you just shared that we didn't hit on in the last episode, you know what I mean? And so I think that's always important. I feel like kids, they, especially with kind of where we are, like this climate, college athletics, college football more specifically, it's about NIL, it's about transfer portal, it's about money, and all the glamour and glitz of the game, right? However, there are a few fundamental principles that you just will never get away from playing this game. That's teamwork, that's collaboration, that's community, like you touched on, that's hard work.
Yeah.
Like it's those finite things that we tend to daily, you know, just day to day kind of skip over.
Yep.
And things that you need are gonna need in everyday life.
Exactly.
Not just on the field.
And no lie, man, that's why I tell a lot of parents, I don't train your son for football. Train your son for life, right? Because we play the game of life more than we're gonna play the game of football.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, like you said, the motivation, the working hard, you gotta do all that in life too.
Yeah.
You got to be dedicated. You got to show up on time.
Yeah.
You got to show up consistently.
Yeah.
So everything you do in sports and in football, you're going to do in life. So it's not just about training the qualities that you need just for football. It's about training them so they can have that in life as well. So they can persevere through anything that comes their way.
Yes, sir. And before we get out of here, like I said, like we did last time.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think you very, very insightful, man. I appreciate you for coming on the show today.
And I appreciate you driving down here, bro.
Again, two things. And that's one, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do my best to do it.
Definitely.
All right? And two is, like I said, to come to New Orleans is always a treat.
Definitely.
So it was no thing. But before we get out of here, right, modest moment. What's a modest moment on Smokey's journey that has defined who he is as a person, a challenge, an obstacle he got through that was like, man, it's just me and you, God.
Yeah.
It's just me and you.
Yeah, you hit the tough ones too.
Yeah.
But, you know, man, I would go back to 2020 during COVID, right? Mm-hmm. That was at a time where I was really at my lowest as a man.
Yeah.
You know, as a grown, as an adult.
Yeah.
Right? When January hit, you know, I was basically homeless.
Yeah.
You know, me and my dad, you know, we're grown men, so we don't see eye to eye. You know how it is. We're grown men.
Yeah.
And so he basically kicked me out.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was coaching at Douglas in the 9th Ward. You know, I was training, and then I used to Uber at night, you know, to make my money.
Right on.
So I can survive, right? And at that time, COVID hit. You know, I have nowhere to go. I'm sleeping in my car.
Yeah.
I slept in my car from January all the way to April. You know, I'm living in my car basically.
Yeah.
My best friend used to wash my clothes for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so at that time, man, it was a moment where God really tested me.
Yeah.
You know, it was a test because God always gonna test you.
Right.
And it was a test because at that point, man, it was, how do I keep going, right? Because at the end of the day, I still want to train, still want to be this trainer, still was coaching.
Yeah.
And so I could have drove an hour to Houma, you know, to have somewhere to sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I Uber at night.
Yeah.
I'm driving home 2 o'clock in the morning, falling asleep.
That type of thing.
You know, and so I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So I make the decision to sleep in my car.
Yeah.
That's the hardest decision I ever made.
Yeah.
Because why? I had to go through that phase to get to where I'm going.
Right.
And I always told myself, I'm gonna get through this phase.
Yeah.
And I'm never gonna be like this ever again.
Right.
And I go from sleeping in my car from January to April 2020 to a whole year later, March 2021, I'm training NFL guys.
Right.
And I always told myself, man, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was you know, you speak stuff into existence.
Yeah.
And the whole time I'm in that situation, I'm at my lowest, I'm like, I'm gonna be training NFL guys.
Yeah.
Just I'm gonna get through this and I'm never gonna get in this hole again.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna be like this again. You know, and that was a time, man, where, you know, I was hooked on pain pills too. Mm-hmm. So I had to wean myself off of pain pills. I'm going through this homelessness, and, you know, it tested me.
Yeah.
It tested me as a man, but going through that, it showed me, man, I'm capable of anything.
Yeah.
And as long as you stay focused and you have a plan, there's nothing that's gonna stop you.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's gonna stop you. And so that was like, you know, my modest moment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That was the times that made me who I am today. And that's why, you know, this brand is gonna go, you know, further than what I expected.
Definitely.
Because it's the plan, and nothing's gonna stop it. Because I'm unbreakable, man. If you go through that, man, you're unbreakable.
100%. And look, even just right now, just listening to it for that. This is my second time hearing that, but it felt like my first time just because of how real and how authentic that moment is.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, man.
Man, I appreciate you, man.
Guys, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Again, another great guest, another great episode in the works. We got some stuff, some more heat coming for you soon, or in the next few weeks. Just be on the way. I got a lot of stuff planned for y'all. But again, my brother, good.
Man,
I'm so happy.
Thank you, man.
Show, guys. And guys, until next time, peace.
Well, you gotta watch who you smoke with, who you go home with, then smoke. synonymous with germophobic. When it's hot as it just got, I lost a partner to the virus, and a month ago I seen him cruising the block like the murders wasn't enough. Some other shit with us. These crooked cops will put your dead body in cuffs. That's why I play the cut, tucked in the crib, watching UFC fights without the crowd noise. When I feel right, it's full grown. May he roll, all golden crown in the Chevy, sit low, like his pops did before the world closed. When my son is full grown.